Welcome back, you guys. I'm Tassie, and on my Ghostly Update vlog today, I'm gonna be answering a question because I was asked if Hmong Village is haunted, and then I'm also gonna go into a little bit about my own personal stories and experiences of when I first became a shaman. So, is Hmong Village haunted? Yes, it is. Now, in Minnesota, we actually have two of them. We have the one by Como, and then we also have the one by Phelan. And the one at Phelan is frequently the one I would go and visit. I do not visit the one at Como often. It's a lot more hectic, I feel. Like it's really disorganized. Everything's kind of everywhere. Many moons ago, though, I did buy all of my shaman stuff at the Como flea market because it, I don't even think that the Phelan one was built or made yet when I was a shaman. When I first started being a shaman. I honestly can't remember, but I know we didn't go there at all. So to buy like my jinning and all that stuff like that, I bought it all at the Como place. And that's where I bought all of my shaman tools. A few things I had made, but yeah, so that's where I actually bought my shaman tools. And I have been asked before if I ever had uh, some lineages or families, you guys, when they have shamans in their family and all that stuff, they will pass down their tools to somebody else in their family. I don't have that, so my family on my father's side, they all go to church. So that wasn't going to happen. And then nobody in my family for a few generations have ever won that I know of. We did not grow up with it at all. It wasn't until my mom and dad got divorced. And then my mom met some people who were into shamanism. It was because of my first stepfather. His family, they were still yeah. Which basically means they still carry the traditional way of where they had shamans come and do ceremonies. But it was weird because it was never my stepfather. My stepfather never did any type of ceremonies. They never did anything like that. It was his family that they would do it. And then my mom would drag us to go with. So it was that's how I was first introduced to shamanism, through my stepfather's family. Now, after that separation, my new stepfather, he didn't do it either. But his family, it was the same kind of scenario. He had family members who still believed in it, who still did it. And then so we didn't go to too many events, but we've had like one at the house when we were younger, but I didn't live at home at the time when it happened. But I remember we went there to help, and we had no idea what was going on. But anyways, so there hasn't been anybody in my, because normally they say like being a shaman, it can skip a generation, etc. I actually have some family members who live in China, so I don't know them. I don't even know the ones here in the US. So, but I do know that I do have some family members who went off to China after the Vietnam War, and then the other half, they came to America. And then I was born later in 86. So, that is kind of a brief synopsis basically of my experience in my family. The shamanism just doesn't run in our family. My mom and them and my grandmother, I think, they have more of the show side, but it's a version of it. It's more kokong, honestly. And that's all I'm going to say about that. But I know that there were a bunch of Hmong people who went to China and they did something at some temple. And so that was when I was like in the 5th or 6th grade when this happened. But I recall it, and I've seen photos, and there's actually a ghost girl in one of the photos. But anyways, so yeah, and like it's a form of shamanism, but it is not the traditional type. My Ning style, even though I am the new age, when I oneng, which is, having ceremonies and all that stuff, I actually do it like the old style. So that didn't exist in my family. Now, I do have siblings who are actually supposed to be shamans too, but they're a lot like me before I started becoming a shaman. They aren't very dedicated to the whole shaman thing. It's just kind of like, it's gifts that's just been passed down in our family, but a lot of us, we just ignore it. And I've mentioned a lot that I have an affinity with my older brother. In the spirit world, I'm actually older than my older brother. So even though he came before me, I was supposed to come after him to watch and take care of him. So, it's just like I knew him in the spirit world. And a lot of people, you know, they always worry about like reincarnation, being born into the same family, especially now that a lot of Hmong families, they are like intermixed with different ethnic races. So you guys have to remember, a lot of Hmong people, even if you guys do like a DNA test, you're going to find we are mostly Chinese. Most of our genes, we have Chinese because of all the wars we've been through. We have, through rape and pillages and everything, we have been mixed with the Chinese. So I don't know why people are so afraid about that. Like, if they're going to meet each other again. The one thing I'm going to say about that, you guys, when you pass on, the relations that you had, the feeling you have as a human, it's very different when you've passed on. So imagine you've passed on and then you gain a higher level of knowledge. What you knew before means nothing compared to what you truly know now. So that's the easiest way to explain it, if it even made sense to you guys. But don't worry so much about, you know, like, oh, well, because my sister's my best friend, will I see them again in my next lifetime, etc. You may not be born into the same family, and that's just the way it is. But when you do pass on, you're not going to have that feeling of urgency that you need to be reborn together again. It's not like that at all. So very long story short there. Basically, I don't have anybody in my family who were shamans. Traditional shamans where you can host ceremonies and do all that stuff, right? Now, my tools, I didn't get them passed down from anybody. I bought them all brand spanking new, and and my teacher actually and her husband actually helped me with my bench, getting a toning and my shrine and everything like that. So that's actually how that came about. And about Hmong village. So the Como one, I feel like there's a lot of stuff there, but only in like one area do I feel like it's truly haunted. The rest, I just feel like it's dirty, but there's actually an area. It's the older style building. I'm really bad at explaining this. So when you go there, you know how there's that parking lot and then there's like one building, but that's more like I think they have some shops, but it's more of the food stalls. So it's not that one I'm referring to. I'm referring to the one beyond the parking lot. Not where they sell like the herbs and everything in the summertime, like the veggies, but it's that building. That building, I do feel like there's something really dark there, especially. So like the first hall that you enter in that building there, it's fine. But when you go down the stairs and you go to that whole section and into the back, that is where you're going to have a lot of like demonic feeling and entities there. That side I don't like. Now, for the one at Phelan, yes, that one's haunted. Y'all have no idea. So I love to eat the food at the one at Phelan. But whenever I get there, I'm always like staring down the hallways and I'm literally zigzagging, you guys, because wherever there is nothing, I will walk there. And I remember my first time when I first went there to the Phelan one. It's by the front, and it's really hard because for anybody who's never been there, it's going to sound crazy when I explain this. It used to be part of St. Paul Public Schools. It used to be their warehouse, their actual center. So the front end is actually like a real building, like an office. It feels like a school almost. And towards the back, connected to it, is a warehouse. Inside of the warehouse, they've built all of these stalls, and then that's where a lot of people will rent out a stall and open up their own shop there, right? And then towards the very end, you're going to have like the produce, and then you're going to have all the restaurants. Now, there's a ton of entrances. There's like 20 entrances to this place. So the one I am referring to, and I'm going to try to recall it as best as I can because everything looks the same. But when you enter, it's through the front. So not like where they have the big parking that they just made on the sides. It's towards the front of the building. And when you walk in, there's a shop that sells like beauty stuff. And it looks like a wide like area. And then to the right, to my left, I'm sorry, you're going to have like a grocery store kind of a thing where it's like a grocery store. And there's a stall there that sells like old Asian medicine. But anyways, the whole point of this is that is where there's this creepy old woman. This creepy old woman always stands there and she interacts with people. So I always try to avoid that door if I can, because when I first walked in, I knew there was something there, but I couldn't see her, right? And so I was like, okay, this is the clear path. I'm going to go this way so that I don't run into it. And as soon as I start walking, boom, she runs into me purposely. So she, on purpose, has the awareness to run into people. So if you guys really know what entrance I'm talking about, there's even like a DVD section. This is gonna sound terrible because anybody who's ever been there, everything I explain is like every entrance. It's towards the front, you guys. It's not towards the inside of the building, because there's an entrance with a lot of handicap, and then there's like some kind of photography studio. It's not that entrance by the bathroom. It is the one over next to it. So yeah, that lady there is an old lady. She will literally go up to people and follow people around the place. She is that aware, so just be careful. She's not like demonic, but she's the kind that will like follow you home, you know, and like make you sick and like touch and eat your food as you're eating, you know. So that's like a funeral home type of a ghost. So, you know, like just avoid that door if you can. And another prevalent one that I think you guys should be made aware of. Okay, there's two more prevalent ones, okay? So, you know, like the middle hallway, like from the produce, this is the produce. And then there's like this hallway with like, it's kind of a wider, big entrance hallway with an ATM. And then I think it's Mrs. Papaya. And then you'll come to like the cross. And then that is also the food section, okay? So this is the main big corridor that I'm referring to. There's one there. And then if you turn, and you guys know like, okay, if you're looking towards the food vendors, that hallway, so it is your left. If you go all the way to the end, to the very end of the food court, there's one there too. So those are the main three you guys should be made aware of. So I will sometimes enter through the side over to the far right by the end of the food court, and that is on the opposite side of the bubble tea place. Okay, it's on the opposite side. Now over there, I only enter through that door if I know that there's somebody else with me. So, you know, like I can sacrifice them. And then the one, so, you know, I'm not worried about the one in the corridor, the main one, in the bigger corridor, right between the produce and the food. You know, I'm not worried about that one, because that one, it's not as strong and it's not as aware, whereas the other two, they're very, very aware. So we're going to move on now. So I'm going to talk about now about like some of my beginnings. I've been getting a lot of people contacting me about like them starting on their own journey and everything. And I've mentioned many times, I'm going to say it again, you guys, I am not practicing shaman where you can come and ask me for services. I do not offer shaman services. I can give you guys my knowledge and my experience and what I went through and advice if my guides will let me. But it's not like I'm a magic 8-ball. So I'm not just going to be out there helping everybody, okay? Keep that in mind. So when I'm going to be talking about this experience here, it is strictly to try and help a lot of people. So you guys can kind of understand. So that way you don't feel like you're alone and you know that these kind of things happen. So growing up, how I had explained at the beginning of this video, I did not grow up with shamanism. Now, I have been around it though. I have been to like events, ceremonies, and oh my Lord, it's just noisy, it's dirty, it's loud. It's stinky because of all the incense sticks they're burning. It's just like nonstop incense sticks. I never liked going to ceremonies. It's just never been clean to me and I hated it. And I remember every time I hear a shaman, it was just so loud. It like makes you kind of agitated and you just don't like being around it. Now, it was not until I actually went to my teacher. When at the time I didn't know she was my teacher. When I went to go have her shai, which is look at me to see what was wrong with me, for the first time in my life, did I fully and completely understand everything she said when she did her chants. Because when a shaman onings or does a ceremony, for anybody who's never been to one, it's not like nice. It doesn't sound nice, you guys. It's not like it's like a concert. Like, it's just terrible. And it probably sounds terrible because I'm saying this. But you guys know, like, it's really loud. You can't really hear each other because of the instruments that are going. Different lineages will always like hit a gong for a long time. Some will only hit it a couple of times, but then they have like the juneng, which is very loud and is just being shaken the whole time. So it is just very loud. And then you have the shaman who's just chanting above all of this noise. And then you on the outside, you can't be that loud because if you're too loud, you're going to distract the shaman and then you get yelled at by your elders. So, if you're going to chat, if you're going to laugh and all that stuff, you need to leave the room. But I never understood what the shaman was saying. It was just a bunch of gibberish. And now, when I went to my would-be teacher in the future, though, I completely understood her. I followed along with everything she said. I knew where she was going. And I was never a shaman, you guys. I was like, it was one of those moments where I'm like, imagine if you couldn't speak English, then all of a sudden something opened your ears and then you could understand all these English words. That's what it felt like. So I was like, this foreign language, like how am I following along with you? And the thing is, I could see things. I was getting visions of what my teacher was seeing. And the whole point of that story, when you guys, you may not know this, that's why I'm saying this. A lot of people, you will know right away if a lineage doesn't match your style. Because if you're somebody who goes to listen to somebody oneng, even if let's say that it's you and another student of your teacher. So your teacher has like 5 students, right? If I was one of those students and we all listen to each other oneng, we may not get along. So you're not going to understand every shaman because you're not meant to understand it. So if you tried to listen to another shaman do their chants and you just get agitated and irritated, you just can't stand that noise. Same thing if you try to listen, but you just can't comprehend what they're saying. And also if you are trying to listen, but then you keep losing focus. And you have to keep reminding yourself, like, okay, where are they at on their journey? Like, what are they doing? Like, you have to keep like mentally reminding yourself to keep focusing. It's because you're not meant to learn from them. That's why. So don't think you're going crazy or anything like that and you just hate it. You are not meant to learn or listen to them. So that's why that happens. So that's actually pretty common, but only shamans tend to realize this. So just letting y'all know, don't feel like you're not supposed to be a shaman if you're supposed to be one because you can't understand anybody else. You're just not meant to learn from them. That's why you can't. It will literally be blocked from you. Now, I remember I once knew a shaman, and this person was very helpful. They were a very helpful person, but what a lot of people couldn't see was that this person was very, okay, it's not like they're bad, but they had this part of them, this side to them. And they had this side where they like loved knowing better than everybody else. They loved it. And the thing is, nobody could see it. But I was like, because I'm like, because everybody else was like, oh my God, the shaman is like blah, 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 right? And I'm like, dude, like, y'all don't see that face? Like, because if you talked about another like shaman that you heard of, right? And then this person is like supposed to be really good at something, right? That individual will be like, like kind of shady, like, and they'll kind of make comments about them, like in a really shady, non-direct way, like, oh, well, what kind of stupid person learns like that? Like, calm down, dude. Like, seriously. So I remember though, this individual in particular, and this is when I was beginning my journey, and I had no idea, you guys. I had no idea at all. I was just starting to meet shamans, because before then I didn't know anybody, especially like anybody, and even then I didn't know anybody my age who was a shaman. I knew one person who was younger than me that was a shaman. I loved her. But other than that, everybody was older than me. And I was starting to meet people. Oh, and it is the worst when somebody is like in front of you and you're just like, oh my God, they're evil. Like, because there's people who are like just really icky, two-faced. And I couldn't stand it, because it was like, it was somebody who was like, who knew my teacher, and they would come around my teacher. And I was like, damn, teacher, don't you know this person's evil? Like, because I'm like, ugh, like, stay away from my teacher. But then, anyways, so then, like, this person who I was talking about, though, like, when I was talking to them, they would ask me things, like, about my own journey and my own experience, and it would be wiped from my mind. Literally, okay, imagine if I told you the color red. Red is your color, right? And then imagine this icky person is like, oh, so what did your guides tell you? And all the way until that question, you knew I told you the color is red. But then it just gets wiped from your mind and you don't remember what I just said. You cannot recall it, no matter how hard you try. So it kept happening to me. And it was driving me crazy, because it made me look like I was stupid. Like, because this person was Kwa, which means they were like respected, revered. They were somebody who people really valued because they were good at what they did. But they would ask me things like about my own journey and about my own experience, and it would just be gone. I couldn't recall it. So it wasn't until I would go home and then I'd be like yelling at my guides, like, what the hell? Like, why are you guys making me look so stupid? Like, I can't answer them. Like, I don't know anything when they ask me. And then it wasn't until a couple months later, I actually found out the reason it was happening was because my guides were warning me, this person's evil. Don't tell them nothing. So then that can happen. So a lot of times, you guys, especially if you go stupid suddenly, it happens to everybody. Like, there's a reason for it. Dude, you guys have no idea. Like, I remember I was talking to all these people at the time, and I was like, why is it that I can't recall it? Like, the information, it was just there. And then it just gets wiped. And I'm just like standing there like, I don't know the answer. Oh, it was just very, very frustrating. But in the long run, my guides were protecting me from this individual, because this individual was exactly what I was feeling. And I'm like, dude, how does nobody else see this person? Like, this person's crazy, man. Like, all right. So then the last thing I'm going to talk about before the end of this video, I was asked about recently about somebody who is very, very good at communicating with their guides. They're not a practicing shaman yet, but they are very, very good at communicating with their guides, and they feel like they have pretty good communication. They understand their guides really well, right? The problem, though, they don't know what their guides' names are, and they don't know how to chant. So I'm going to tell you guys, if you are an individual who is like this, if you're somebody who you definitely feel that you understand and you can get good answers and that you can see things pretty well, because of your guides and because you've been honing your gifts and all that stuff, right? But you don't know their names. You don't know how to properly call them. The reason for, and also they were asked is, how can they force them to get an answer, right? Because sometimes they'll just stop talking to them. The reason why that's happening is because as an individual, you do not know how to control them. Communicating and hearing them is very, very different from controlling. Now remember, the key point here is you need to control them, because if you can't control them, you don't really know who you're talking to. You don't really know everything there is about them. You don't really know if they're going to always do the right thing for you or if it's for them. So, and I know that, And I'm going to say this. I've mentioned this before in other videos. Shamans hate, even from their own teacher, being told that their guides are naughty. It's like someone telling you that you have naughty kids. Like nobody likes that. I had a dog. He was crazy. I knew he was crazy. He was like crazy. But nobody could tell me he was crazy. I'm like, he's not crazy. It's you're blinded by your love for them. That's the thing. But the thing you have to realize and truly understand, to be a successful shaman and to know your abilities and your extent, you have to be able to control your guides and you have to be able to control your gift. Because if you can't, you don't know how to use it. You don't know fully how to use it. You don't know fully how to control it. And what use is that? If suddenly you really need the answer, you really need to know what's going on, and you don't know how to control it. The thing is, when you are not a practicing shaman, that's okay. Because what are you really going to be using the gifts for? Typically, when people are going to become shamans, they have their own reason for it. A lot of people will just do it just so they're okay. And they don't really plan on doing anything with it, like going out to the community and like being well known and all that stuff. Some do. But you have to know how this is going to affect your life. So if all you do is keep hearing voices, keep seeing visions, but you don't know how to control that, the number one thing I would tell you to practice is controlling when to turn it on and off. Lord, that saved me a lot. Because when I put my shrine down, I ran away from all of it. I stopped focusing on anything. Like, only what I wanted, what I needed, and I was very, very selfish. I only did what I wanted. And so when I went through that, though, I learned how to completely cut off that side. It only came out if I became drunk or when I was sleeping, because then I couldn't control it. But it's about learning how to raise and lower your walls. So that's really important because it's going to protect you in the future. So if you want, you could just practice. Just practice. Practice envisioning yourself being protected. And the power and the energy like that, it's drawn out of you. And you have to learn, because if you're practicing it and it's kind of like weak and nothing's really happening, you don't even know what you're doing, it's because you're not practicing enough. You got to keep practicing it. Oh, one of my viewers wrote to me. Somebody told them to pay them $3,000 for a ceremony. Lord, if somebody told you to pay $3,000 for a ceremony, you better be a full-fledged master by the end of it. In one day, you better be a master shaman if you're paying $3,000 for somebody to come and do a ceremony for you. Okay, I don't care what they're doing. Okay, they could be raising the dead for all I know. $3,000? I want to know, like, what they're doing. If you guys know of somebody who charges $3,000, let me know what they do in their ceremony that it costs so much. All right, you guys, that's it for this video. Until next time.